Find some files.
Welcome everybody, go ahead and stand up and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Group 3.
Pledge allegiance to
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, could you do the honors for us?
Bow our heads. Father, again, we thank you for our safety and passage to our meeting this evening. For those that are still in the room, we just pray that Guardian Angel will give them safe passage, safe travels, and good health. Father, we just pray for our missions here. We just pray that you can watch over us, give us the right direction to go, and keep us safe. Give guidance to this nation and to its government, Father, in your name we pray. Amen.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate it. Welcome back, everybody, to our second meeting of the year. We have a special guest with us tonight, Ken Benner, the Group 3 Interim Commander, and soon to be possibly full-time commander. Ken, did you want to say some words at the
Oh, sure,
outset
just something
here?
real quick.
Okay, sure. Come on up.
I know a bunch of you guys, but some of you I don't recognize. Been in CAP for a while, 13 something years, longer than some of you, not as long as others. Major Stout's Major Stout is the deputy commander for cadets at 45. He was my deputy commander a week ago. But he's just wanting to come and check some of the squadrons. He hasn't been to for a while, so he tagged along tonight. I'm looking forward to trying to make a Group 3 super productive and active, and tie all the squadrons back together to do a bunch of stuff, get the cadets some more rides, get our SARXs going, get pilots back up. I'm just going to need everybody's cooperation with that. Who here is Group 3 also? Group 3 staff.
Oh,
Just you.
Group 3 staff, I am,
You
and Bob.
So I'm looking to fill those, the Group 3 staff roles, keep everybody that's not busy, and try and get a lot done. The big things can be cooperation and working together. I think we can do a lot if everybody puts in their part, and I don't know, I look forward to making things awesome. So if there's any input you have for me, please filter those through your chain, or you can, if you got something you just want to talk to me about, I'm open to that too. I appreciate all you guys and your service and the time you put into this, and look forward to having fun and making it fun for everybody. So, all right.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, Terry's done a lot for us. I appreciate that.
All right, well, welcome. We appreciate your enthusiasm, believe me. There's been some challenges we've been trying to overcome here. The Group 3 exercise, as you guys know, if you've been watching your email, has been postponed until the 19th and 20th of March. If you can participate in it, we want to have you participate in it, and not necessarily on a flying level, okay? We need mission staff assistance. There's all these acronyms here are acronyms for people that we need on base. So there'll be an email go out in the next day or so from Kevin Shannon, who's going to be asking for folks to step up and participate in the SARX in administrative capacity. And also, if you want to fly, go ahead and put that down. I know some of you guys are at the scanner school. Put that in to get you flying as well. Okay. So look for that email. Aircraft update. Lon's not here, but I'll give you the rundown. Cap 437. It's been determined it's going to be an engine change. I think that was the case last week as well. The engine is still on the aircraft. That we're actually going to take that engine off, put it in a crate, and send it back for factory remanufacturing, and they're going to send that same engine back. Okay, so that's going to, I guess.
You know if it's going to America's Engine?
I don't know for sure.
They're the ones that have been doing this stuff.
That sounds familiar to me, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
I don't trust them.
So anyway, I asked Mike Swift about that. He thought it was going to be a 5 to 6 week process. That sounds lightning fast to me. I don't know, but
There's a possibility if they take that block, it has to go out. It'll have to be magnafluxed. They always do that. And then it'll have to be welded up for the cam, and then it'll be bored for the cam, take it apart again, and then they'll start replacing the stuff as needed. So it takes about a week to build it up, you know, if you're gonna do it right with everything.
okay. So
So
you're
you
saying
got 1 week for prep, 1 week for parts, 1 week to build, depending on where they ship it out to. Yeah, probably 5-6 weeks.
Okay. Great,
And then how
so-
busy they are too.
All right, so that's good. So we'll have our airplane back here maybe in 6 weeks. In the meantime, I'm picking up Cat 498 out of Gillespie. It's being returned here until 437 is back online. And that made most sense because it's a 206. You guys needing initial Form 5, you can at least get an initial Form 5 and a 206. And then it's just an abbreviated one from there on to get the G1000, the high performance, well, I'm sorry, the turbo endorsement for G1000. I'm actually gonna be talking about this in depth, and thanks for Chris Younger for helping me organize all these thoughts into some pages that'll be, I think, very effective training guide for you guys to become Civil Air Patrol pilots. Let's see, what else was there we need to talk about for the time being? Before I jump into there, was there anything safety-wise, or?
No, we're gonna have, our risk management will take place next month. And we have to
Okay.
get that done within the second week. I've already sent out an email to all the commanders and the safety and been working with Ken on that because some of these people are behind schedule. That's not our issue here. So next safety meeting will be risk management. And if the individuals have not completed it or did not make the safety meeting this month, they'll have to take and make up something in between. I'll have to see Roger. Roger's ill.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that we give a good broadcast on that so people can make sure they attend, right?
Yeah.
Get credit for that. All right, so it occurred to me,
Real quick,
yeah,
how you getting to Gillespie?
Mike Swift is driving me down there, believe it or not.
You want somebody to fly you down?
I would love somebody to fly me down.
I can do it.
Volunteering?
Oh, gosh.
We want to go down
Maybe-
Thursday at some point.
Oh,
Doesn't have-
Thursday, I can't do Thursday.
Oh, yeah. Just,
I was gonna say,
we're flying
we can
cadets
take
on
the Friday.
Saturday, so I just wanted to make sure if I went down there and the battery is dead, that I could, that there's some wiggle room there,
Yeah,
whatever the case might be, to,
yeah, I can't take another day off this week.
that's all right. Well, thanks for the thought.
It's quick.
I only have half of the hell. Mike has both halves, so 2.5 hours down and 2.5 hours back.
I'll even let you fly.
There you go. Adolfo?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe we went through this last time. Do you have a CAP number yet?
Yes, yes,
Okay. Did you put it on there?
yes, it is.
Okay, all right, good. Welcome back. Reading through all the regulations in 70-1, it just occurred to me that maybe it'd be a good idea just to lay out a roadmap that would be very simple to follow, and based on the type of pilot that you are, okay, coming into Civil Air Patrol. We got all kinds of pilots. We've got Daniel here, Shimon, who's about ready to be shipped off to become an airline pilot. And we've got Chris Younger, who just, I believe, soloed?
Oh, I'm.
No, you're ready for your check ride.
Yeah, ready for
Long,
check ride.
crust, so, I mean, and then you've got a guy like me who's just flown Civil Air Patrol for years. You got Bob, a retired American airline captain with I don't know how many thousands and thousands of hours, and helicopter pilot back there. So all different kinds of flight experience in the room. Aaron's pilot, and I don't remember if you are or not. Bill.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, I thought I'd talk about, well, besides the flying requirements, what is it you gotta do to become a Civil Air Patrol pilot? So let's talk about that. Can you guys read that? Is it not? I'm gonna read it off. I'm gonna send this email out to everybody at, tomorrow morning, so you have this. No need to take notes or anything like that. Everybody here is 18 years or older, okay? Current FA private pilot, okay, that makes sense. FA medical or basic medical, CAP accepts basic medical now, and that might be helpful for some of our older
Only
pilots.
after you've gotten your third class regular. So the first thing you gotta get is our third class if you're a student.
Okay,
After you get that and you get your license, then you can go to the secondary basic med.
Yeah, you can only get basic med if you've had a medical.
if you've
in the
had
past.
one before,
Yeah, you
gotcha,
can't
okay.
just enter in with a basic med. You
Okay,
have
well,
to have a
thanks for the
medical in past.
clarification, but I'm assuming most of our older pilots have had a 1, 2, or 3
At least some
before.
point or
Yeah.
five, yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking about that. But anyway, so, okay, so it makes sense. A pilot's license, a medical, complete level 1. Okay? That's CAP boot camp, that's online, that's in Axis, I believe. And how long does that take you? Anybody know who's gone through it recently? Ken, no, you haven't.
You know
gone
what,
through
I
it?
just completed it.
Okay,
Give or take, it took me about
2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Okay, so 2.5, 3 hours. You guys are lucky. It took about 2.5 to 3 days when I started Civil Patrol. It was an all weekend thing down at Los Alamitos or something like that. So, complete level 1, complete your aircraft ground handling, okay? That's also a video course on Access. You're gonna hear the word access a lot tonight. And I know I'm speaking to, a lot of you guys know what this is, but we're also speaking to the camera there so people that aren't here tonight can get the briefing. The CAP Aircrew Professionalism course, again on Access, probably about an hour type of a course. And then the CAP 116, the General Emergency Services course. Don't bother thinking about flying for Civil Air Patrol until you've got these things done. Now, let's go on to the next step here. So now you've completed the prerequisites. You've done some of the Civil Air Patrol stuff. Let's talk about how do you become a Civil Air Patrol pilot. It's called, the process is called a Form 5 flight evaluation, okay? And Form 5 is because that's the number of the form, okay, 5A. To be eligible to take a Form 5, okay, the actual flight evaluation, you've got to do some things. You've got to go out and you've got to fly the airplane that you want to get Form 5 in. We have several different types of aircraft within CAP that we fly. Locally, there's more, but locally we basically have 3. We've got a 172, 182s, and 206s. Okay, those 3 types. And within each type, there may be additional endorsements that you have to have for that class of aircraft. For example, a G1000 endorsement and a turbo endorsement. We have some turbo 182s. Okay, so let's just say, so for each aircraft type that you want to fly for Civil Air Patrol, you have to have an initial Form 5 in that. So if I want to fly 172s, 182s, and 206s in Civil Air Patrol, I've got to have an initial Form 5 and a 172, 182, and 206, which means I follow this process for all 3 of those aircraft. Now, I will say this. This general power, say you want to do all 3 at the same time. You take the general exam, powered exam, and you fill out 3 aircraft questionnaires. 172, 182, and 206. Okay? Then, within 60 days, so these exams don't lapse, you take your flight exam with that. Does that make sense? Okay. In addition to an initial Form 5 in each one, there's a requirement that if you're flying a high-performance aircraft, turbo is included in that, so I should have added that as a separate line item, you must pass a Form 5 in a high-performance airplane. Make sense? You want a G1000 endorsement, you've got to pass a Form 5 in a G1000 equipped aircraft. There's all kinds of training resources on Access that talks about G1000, NXI upgrades, and all this stuff. Feel free to take those courses, but if you've been flying G1000 for 5 years, if you can just pass a Form 5 in G1000, you're done. You don't have to take those courses. There's nothing that says you. Those are resources for you to learn the equipment, okay, and that's it. So let's take a step back and let's just kind of talk about it one more time. For each aircraft that you want to get, you want to fly in Civil Air Patrol, you've got to take that initial Form 5. This is a good example because we're going to have a 206 up here shortly that's not a G1000 206. It's Zelda. So let's talk about specifically our squadron, okay? Our squadron flies a 206, okay? If you don't want to fly a 206, you probably shouldn't be here. Go to another squadron because this is the airplane we have. That's the cards we're dealt. It's actually a very easy flying airplane. You're going to love it, okay? A lot of power. But we're going to get a G1000 Turbo 206 back in about 6 to 8 weeks. Now what? So I've just gone through all this. I've taken these exams, done my flight training, and gone out and passed a Form 5 and a 206. When 437 gets here, am I qualified to fly it? And the answer is no, you're not. You're qualified to fly a 206, but you need that endorsement for G1000 and Turbo endorsement. How do you get that? you go out with an instructor for an hour, okay? And learn the turbo aspects of it. Hopefully we're gonna have a turbo ground school, which will help out a lot, okay? And you use some of the resources on G1000, or you fly with me, or we have a simulator back here. We can learn G1000 fairly quick. For VFR, G1000 is nothing, okay? It's getting the instrument part of it that would take some learning, okay? But like I said, all you gotta do is pass the Form 5. So let's get you guys Form 5 in the 206, okay, by taking your general exam, your power exam, doing your questionnaire, and showing up the day of your flight check with that paperwork, passing the evaluation. Now you've got it. Then when we get 437 back, we'll have a class on turbo and the G1000 basics, and we'll get you guys flying and get another Form 5. But is this Form 5 going to be the same as the first one that you took? No, it is not. It's going to be an abbreviated Form 5. So it's going to, you're only going to have to demonstrate that you know how, not that you know how to fly steep turns and all this other stuff, all this FA private pilot stuff, which is basically a Form 5 evaluation, same thing as a private pilot check ride. You're going to have to demonstrate that you know how to use the equipment. What's turbocharged aircraft, okay? A sudden loss of manifold pressure means what in a turbocharged aircraft, right? It probably means your turbocharger has failed. Very first thing you need to do is reduce the mixture, right? Things like this that you need to demonstrate. And then of course in G1000, being able to enter flight plan into the MFD and so on and so forth. So, but it would be an abbreviated Form 5. You guys have some questions on that? Anybody have any questions on that?
I thought, Terry, that if I got checked out in Zelda,
Yeah.
I would have to get checked out in 437 as a turbocharged and as a G1000, is that correct?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
The turbocharge endorsement is a single time, one time only thing. You get that once, it's never evaluated again in Civil Air Patrol.
Can you do both at the same time?
Yeah. Yeah, do it. Yeah, we would do it at both at the same time. And then the G1000, so let's just say, so for years and years and years, in fact since 2006, I've only flown G1000 aircraft until we got Zelda back here, which is the affectionate name for 498 in January. First time in, what is that, 16 years, I've not flown a G1000 aircraft. It was gone. I took my Form 5 in Zelda. Do I have a G1000 credential or an endorsement after doing that? And not, I took my Form 5 as a renewal. The answer is no, I don't. Even though I have 16 years of flying it, you've got to fly in the highest category aircraft, but then everything else will fall below it. So, for an example, so let's get our initial Form 5 in the 206. We'll get our abbreviated Form 5 then to bring us up to speed on 437. Now, it's a year later. Every year we've got to be evaluated. So now, the only airplane out there is, say, Cat 498 again, the steam gauge 206. If you take your Form 5 in that, that's great. You're great for the 206, you're great for the 182 that you took before for the first time, and the 172. You don't take those again, it's just the first time for every category. And then the highest category follows everything down through. But you lose all your G1000 credentials because you didn't take the Form 5 in a G1000 aircraft. So then you'd have to go back and take an abbreviated Form 5 in a G1000 aircraft, whether it be a 172, 182, or 206, and then you'd have that credential back, okay? I'm covering a lot of ground here. I'm going to make it more specific to the squadron here. So let me just go back and make this very specific to the squadron, because that's really no bad.
So simply said, the equipment endorsement matriculates to all the aircraft.
Yes.
So it's like actually you could do your Form 5 in Zelda, go find a 182 that's a turbo 182 with G1000 if you were so inclined to get all that done.
Yes, you could.
before
Yeah.
437.
And then you would have a turbo endorsement, you'd have a G1000 credential, and you would be able to fly Cat 437, which is a turbo aircraft. Okay? So, again, just to boil it down for us, you're gonna go out and fly 2 to 4 hours in Zelda, okay? You're gonna take your general exam, which is basically the CAP stuff of a Form 5, okay? That's what is Civil Air Patrol, how far behind another light twin can you taxi? You know, when you were taxiing within certain distance of an obstruction, and when does somebody have to be walking next to you, or just things like this. Okay, the powered exam is going to be more specific to aircraft and flying. Okay, Huh?
The POH.
the pilot operating handbook stuff, you know. The aircraft questionnaire is going to be specifically, questions on how many quarts of oil does that aircraft take? What kind of gas does it take? What's the what's the maximum manifold pressure? What's the RPM of takeoff? What are the V-speeds? All these things. You look it up in the POH, and it's a graded quiz that you then bring to your flight instructor the day of the Form 5, and they make sure that you got it all right, or they correct it to 100%. Okay, by the way, you can Google this CAP number here, and the form will show up on Google, okay? Or you can just go on to e-services and go through e-services, admins, forms, the publications and regulations, and go through this decision tree, and you can get there too. But the easiest way to get these forms is to Google them and then just come up and download them, okay? So, on the day of the Form 5, you want to show up with your private pilot's license and your medical, evidence of a current BFR, your CAP membership card, okay, it's current, the aircraft questionnaire, and proof of passing these exams, which in your transcript area on Access, you just press transcript button, and you can print off the fact that you passed those. You may or may not need that depending on the instructor pilot. They should be looking online to see that you have that, but if they don't, you have the evidence. And then I say 2 copies of the Form 5, just so that if for one reason or another somebody spills coffee on one or whatever, you have 2. Okay? So, Form 5 at each aircraft make and model that you desire to fly, a high performance endorsement, single time, turbo endorsement, single time, G1000 annually. Okay? So who here has 100 hours or less? That would be Chris Younger. Okay? So let's talk about the type of pilot that Chris Younger can become right away with Civil Air Patrol. Pilots with less than 100 hours at PIC, and we need to strike that. That's a mistake. Don't need the cross country. Just 100 hours of PIC and less. It used to be that we had a requirement. You had to have 100 hours of PIC to fly with Civil Air Patrol, but that became too stringent a requirement. People just getting their pilot's license and wanting to join CAP, it just wasn't matching up. So they've reduced that to 100 hours of PIC. You see that you're going to go out there and fly with a CAP instructor. Well, where do you find a CAP instructor? You find a CAP instructor on your PCR mobile app is the easiest way. You guys know what that is? We've talked about it several times, but I'm going to pull it up here. PCR mobile app, okay? It's actually not an app, it's a website. I make it look like an app on my phone. It's a website, and there's the web address that we've given out many times, but on there, it has many different buttons you push, including check pilots, okay? Push check pilot. You're in group 3, you press group 3. You say, okay, in group 3, here, okay, what kind of check pilot do you need? Just for an airplane, G1000, okay, so in this particular case, I'm looking for, because it's Zelda, it'd be just airplane. And you see it's Jim Hot Toys and Brian Carr, okay? Those are the check pilots for that. This should also list the instructor pilots. What's the difference between an instructor pilot and a check pilot? The difference between that is an instructor pilot can fly with you and give you your instruction, but he cannot give you a Form 5 flight evaluation. Check pilot can do both. He can train with you, and then when you're done training, here's the problem with that. When you're done training, he can't give you a flight evaluation. You gotta go to somebody else. So, there's probably 3 instructor pilots for every check pilot there is around town, okay? Meaning, get your instruction from an instructor pilot. Don't waste your silver bullet on Jim Hot Toys as the closest guy training, and then have to wait for a guy in San Diego to show up and give you a check pilot. Yeah, again.
Do we have any more check pilots in the getting close, or?
We have a bunch of guys in the pipeline right now. We got this guy right here, Billy McGee, and another fellow that I can't remember the name of his off the top of my head out of the Cable Squadron. Aside from that, we have Shane Telekarotny, if I'm pronouncing that some even close to
TK.
right.
We're just calling TK.
Okay. We have Shane from, who's an instructor pilot out of your group, out of your outfit there, and then we've got Trent Ferris. So those two guys right there are instructor pilots. We're hoping to move those into check pilots pretty quickly, and Jim Otway. So right now, at the moment, and Brian Carr is on that list, but he's really kind of unavailable. He flies a lot with an airline. He owns an FBO, and so he's kind of busy. So anyway, we're trying to fill this up as fast as we can. For right now, we've got Trent Ferris essentially and Shane. Call these guys up, schedule a sea mission flight. Unfortunately, at this level, okay, not entirely true, okay, not entirely true. There may be some onboarding funds available, okay? We'll talk about that in a minute. For these purposes, we'll talk about, this is self-funded flights for 2 to 4 hours. Again, you take your 2 exams and a questionnaire. You guys are gonna know, that you take a general and a power exam and a questionnaire by the end of the night, because I have to say it over and over again. You pass your form flight evaluation, and guess what? You get to fly sea missions. And I'm gonna take it back right now. There is a program right now, an onboarding program, that that you can apply to me for, okay? Thinking especially of you, and you, aren't you a pilot, right? But you don't have your Silver Air Patrol credentials, right?
Correct.
Okay. You guys could apply to me for this, and then, so what would happen, how does onboarding work? So onboarding is going to work with, you still call up an instructor pilot and say, hey, Terry Pratt told me that I'm a candidate for the onboarding program. Shane, he said, go fly with Shane for 1 hour of self-funded flying, okay? So go fly with Shane for 1 hour of self-funded flying. Shane is going to make an evaluation at the end of the hour. Can this person check out and become a Form 5 Silver Air Patrol pilot within 3 to 4 hours? If the answer to that is yes, he's going to put you in the onboarding program, okay? Which is a special mission number. He'll give you the number of sorties that you can fly, 2, 3, or 4. Usually 4 is the max, okay? If you need more than that, just means you're not ready yet, okay? You need to have a little bit more high performance time or whatever, because we're only flying these high performance aircraft. But you would be able to then fly those next 4 sorties with Shane or another instructor pilot, fully funded, and then at the end, we expect to take a Form 5 flight evaluation, and that will also be funded. So it's like 5 hours of free flying. So right now, the 206 goes at a rate of $109 an hour plus gas. And I can tell you the flying that you would be doing on a Form 5, you're going to be running around 15 gallons an hour, even though it can burn probably upwards of 34 gallons an hour. You're going to 15 gallons an hour plus 106, so 75 plus, there you go. And apparently that's pretty cheap. If I've been reading online lately, it's like, geez, I mean, you won't even want to know what a Cirrus SR-22 goes for. But, so anyway, there you go. So you can start flying sea missions. But what does that mean? That means you can rent the aircraft for a heck of a lot cheaper than you can fly, okay, over here. So, I mean, it's not a lot, but it's something, right? You can rent the aircraft, you can fly to and from a mission base. You can fly for proficiency. If you're gonna, I mean, it's $109 plus gas versus, I don't know, what would a high performance aircraft like this cost to fly? I don't have any idea.
$2.20 an hour minimum.
How much?
$2.20 an hour minimum.
Yeah, what's the type?
I'll tell you about
Techno's not high
Bonanza's.
performance. That's
That's
just,
right.
we don't have any.
I would say
high-performance
$400 an hour, I'm guessing. I don't know. It's probably half the price.
220 with an instructor probably, or even without an
I
instructor.
was gonna say, I
probably.
just put .9 in the logbook yesterday at NextGen with the CFI.
Was that with a
and that
300
was
horsepower?
No, this is a 172. It
Right,
was
that's
like
what I'm saying, yeah.
190.
Yeah, that's
So
average
it's $200 for a
instructor.
172. What would it be for a turbocharged 206? Which is what you're gonna be flying, so.
That's crazy.
All right.
Be like a twin.
So there's room at the cross for everybody is all I'm saying, okay? The less than 100-hour pilot, come to the cross, okay? We'll get you a Form 5, we'll get you out there flying sea missions, okay? Now, let's go to the next category. This is where you actually start doing something here with Silver Air Patrol. if you have 100 hours of PIC and more, and 50 hours of cross-country. Now, I don't know how many hours of cross-country does somebody get on a private pilot these days?
10 to 15.
Okay, still
On
well
average.
short, but I
Yes.
mean, the whole reason you buy, or not buy a pilot's license, but get a pilot's license is to go somewhere, right? So hopefully you get some cross-country, going to the river.
Question on the cross country.
Yeah.
Is it by certificate standard cross country or the normal FAR standard cross country?
So you and
From
I
here to
talked
Chino
about
is technically
this.
a cross country.
What's that?
Or does it have to be the 50 nautical miles? for
It's 50
certificates?
nautical miles is the way that I've already,
Because that's only for certificate training. And
Yeah.
technically, a cross country by definition is here to Chino's a cross country. But if you're going to get a certificate, IFR, commercial, ATP, whatever, you have to do the 50 nautical miles. So.
yeah, this is, the way I've always understood this rule here, and maybe you could challenge me on it by reading it, I don't know, but it's always been the good old fashioned more than 50 miles
sense.
and land somewhere. Now,
Yeah.
I don't even think you have to have that requirement anymore, but is that right? You don't even have to land anywhere to get a cross
No,
country.
as long as you fly 50 miles out, that counts, and you don't even have to land, because the Air Force did it that way, and they translated that to civilian as well.
Well, no one's gonna here is gonna audit your flight log, okay, probably,
They
but.
don't have to land, and it still counts
You
as
just
cross
take,
country.
you just fly up to Camarillo, make a U-turn, and come back.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, so more than 100 hours, but less than 200 hours, okay? So less than 200, but more than 100, you're in this transport mission pilot category, where you still have to do the same thing. You've got, so if this is where you're starting out in CAP, you have 150 hours plus 50 hours across country, let's say, or something like that, or 125. You go right to this level and say, okay, you're still gonna go out and get your instructor and fly 2 to 4 hours in your airplane so that you can pass your Form 5. You're gonna do the paperwork, and then the two other pieces that you've gotta do are this FEMA training, the IS 100 and IS 700. Chris, I feel like you've just done these recently. How long does it take you to?
It's normally a class.
It's a couple of hours, okay, so you're looking at a couple of hours more work to get to this level. But now that you're a transport mission pilot, you can actually maybe do something here. You can fly transport missions, which is what I understand. In Kentucky, I think, they're flying a lot of transport missions for COVID testing and blood and all this other stuff. I don't know why we're not flying more of that here, but who knows? You can fly something called HiBird, and HiBird is a communications aircraft for SARX or actual WADS missions. WADS mission has a HiBird every time we fly. You guys know what a WADS mission is? Western Air Defense Sector. We run it out of March right here is the local one. We also have one in Fresno. And in fact, Jason Enoch, one of our members, is on that team over there at March. That's how he heard about us. And they launched a couple of F-16s out of here and meet us in, we left an hour and a half ago, and we're at, I go to Lake Havasu City, and they get there in about, 6 minutes, something like that.
Are they able to keep up with the 206?
That's one way to put it, when you say keep up, right? Go that slow. Yeah, so anyway, and then of course you can still fly sea missions, okay? So there's your second level. That's kind of like second base of Civil Air Patrol flying.
A lot of the WADS missions take place around Imperial Palm Springs. Most of them.
Here's where you can really start flying a lot with Civil Air Patrol, okay? When you get to this level, if you've got 200 hours of PIC, now, you don't have to have 50 hours of cross country here to become a cadet O'Roy pilot, but I just lumped it together. But if you do this check, if you have 250, you get transport and cadet O-ride. If you just have 200, you can do cadet O-ride, okay? So here's what you would do in your Form 5 flight evaluation. Do the same thing as everybody else up here, same thing as the transport mission pilot, and then just take this one more test, this non-ROTC orientation quiz, okay? Now, that gets you to the point where you can fly Civil Air Patrol cadet. So this is our largest mission presently with Civil Air Patrol, okay? Major Benner, Colonel Benner, Major Benner, he's the squadron commander over there at 45.
It was a week ago.
Okay, oh yeah, that's right. Now he's the ex-commander over there. And then Major Stout, these guys, we work a lot with them in flying their cadets out of 45, and there's actually 8, if not 9 cadet squadrons in and around this area in Group 3. So that's an awful lot of kids.
Yeah, the biggest squadrons right now are Squadron 45, Squadron 411, which is Redlands, that's all cadets,
Mm-hmm.
and Cable.
Yeah. So if you have 9 squadrons and an average, what's an average? Are there 10 to 20? Say something like that, cadets?
Yeah, pre-COVID,
Pre-COVID is a lot more, yeah.
Yeah, pre-COVID, we were doing like 30 cadets that show up.
Yeah,
at
that's a
night.
lot.
So you don't need a cross-country component?
You don't need a cross-country component, but I kept it in there because I wanted you to have both. So this is kind of like looking at it as if you're in this category, this is what you do for your check ride. I don't want somebody to miss out on it, so. All right, so if you're a guy that has more than 200 hours of PIC, 50 cross-country, but less than 300 hours total, this is your category. Now, it's only one more test than a transport pilot. It's that non-ROTC orientation quiz, which is piece of cake. I want to say, I can't remember how many, I've flown at least well over 150 cadets in the last, I don't know, couple of years.
Some of the most fun flying you can do.
It's rewarding, it's
Yeah.
very rewarding flying. To that point, you have, cadets that, you think that they're not even interested at all, and then you get a text message an hour after you landed from the commander that says the kid told his mom now he wants to become a pilot.
Yep.
And so, that's pretty rewarding stuff right there. So if you start looking at, okay, so, what, 150 cadets times, what, $300 an hour? How much free flying is that in terms of dollars, okay? It's a lot of free flying.
Well, you got seven lessons. And if you just figure an average of an hour, it's a little bit less than that. You're looking at 7 hours times the cost of the airplane. So you're looking at a couple $1,000.
Well, and then times however many hundreds of cadets there are. I mean, there's just so much flying to go around, we just don't have enough pilots to do it. So this is really where you can start making an impact in Civil Air Patrol. If you've got an extra 100 hours of PIC, now you can add on the ROTC and JROTC endorsement, okay? Which is the same thing as the one before, you're just adding this in here, okay? So this is the bucket that you go to right here if you're a 300-hour pilot or more, okay? And again, if you're 300 hours or more, but you don't have 50 hours across country somehow, then you wouldn't have that transport pilot there. But ROTC and JROTC is for both, it's high school and then obviously junior, and then ROTC is college. There's several squadrons around here. That flying has dried up more than it usually, I mean, there's just not a lot of that flying lately, but I did see there was a mission coming out of San Bernardino, and that's the type of where they need like 5 planes for like 2 days to flying, like out of one spot. There's usually a project officer and they open a mission for it, and it's just a lot of flying. And it's less structured, I would say, than the Civil Air Patrol Cadet Orientation Flight Program, because there's 5 different flight syllabi, syllabuses, how do you say it, with Civil Air Patrol, and it's more or less just kind of get them in the airplane and see if they like flying with ROTC, okay? Let's talk about, okay, so now if you get to that point, these are all the missions you can fly. Transport, hybrid, cadet rides, JROTC, okay, and C missions. This is where you want to be in CAP, okay? You want to be a mission pilot. So you'll see that only requires 200 hours of PIC and 50 hours across country, because you've got to be a transport pilot first before you become a mission pilot. You also have to become a scanner. Okay, so mission scanner, how many of you guys know where to go to look at the requirements for mission scanner?
Well,
Squidders, right? Squidders. Ops calls and Squidders. So all the training, curriculum is in there. All the resources are on there to So we've had lots and lots and lots of discussions and training on Mission Scanner here. And that's why, because if you're not a scanner, you can't even get to this point here with CAP Mission Pilot. So some of the extra things that you've got to do on top of becoming a transport pilot, which is the IS 100 and the 700s, you got to do the 200, okay, another one of these FEMA training things. And then you got to do ES Part Service 2, okay, which is probably an hour and a half online. This here is redundant, if we could strike that, it already says it up there. And then going into Squidders, we've got to do all the famine prep. So, should I go into Squidders and show you guys what that is so that you're...
It would be
Can I
helpful, because
refresh?
if you don't go into it a lot, I have to relearn every time I start going back
Yeah,
into
I mean,
it.
it's, CAP doesn't have,
It's not the most
the
user-friendly.
most intuitive e-services and WIMMERS program. I love a robot's asking me if I'm a robot. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna go into WIMMERS down here. See that? And then I'm gonna go over here to operations. Actually, I'm not gonna go to WIMMERS. What am I thinking about?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to e-services. Sorry, I was about ready to.
You're
Make a
getting ready to go
flight
fly.
Thought you were gonna make this simple, sir.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so I have my favorite set up here. So, but you gotta go to ops qualifications. You can do it in that drop-down menu in the top left. See down here, emergency services, Squidder, entry sheet. Okay, what is your cap ID, Ken?
495976.
Okay, let's see what you got left to work on here. So we just say emergency services, and we'll go down here to mission scanner.
One more flight.
Okay. So, were you a mission scanner prior?
I have done flights, but I don't think I ever got the full qualification.
Okay. This is what you've done already, okay? It looks like you were a mission scanner at one point in time. Back in 2021, we signed you off on that, okay? I believe Richard Hazeltine? Okay, anyway. Here's all the Squidders, okay? Let's look at one for mission pilot, one that you haven't done. Everything in gray here is stuff that you have not done. You'll see that there is a task 02005. That's a task that correlates to the mission aircrew reference text, that PDF, that 300-page document. That if you open that up and you go to task 00205, it'll tell you, okay, how to operate the aircraft DF. There'll be 3 pages on there explaining on how to do it and whatever. So you read that, you learn it, and then you go to a skills evaluator, which I'm one, Mike is one. You can have 3 or 4 of these tasks a week. You come to us and before the meeting you say, hey, can you sign off on these tasks? I'll show you that I can demonstrate to you that I know how to, whatever one of these tasks are. The easiest way to do it would be go to Mission Pilot Ground School or Scanner Ground School, okay? They take you through all this stuff in like 2 days, okay? It's kind of like water through a fire hose. But you get all this ops qual stuff signed off on. With the FAM prep here, let's talk about that for a second. You'll see that there's familiarization and prep training, commander approval. So before you do any of this training for mission scanner or mission pilot, you have to have the commanding officer's approval for that, okay? So you just ask for it, that's all. So you go in and he'll sign off on that, okay? And of course, there's the prerequisites up here. You have to be a transport mission pilot, everything we talked about there. And then we start going through this FAM and prep training, which is, can you grid a sectional chart, how are ELTs detected, the POD table. Again, you're using your mission aircrew reference text to learn all this stuff. You can do that independently, or you can go to a ground school. There's more advanced training here, that once you're done with this first block, you'll have to go back and ask the commander to go to the second block, the more advanced training, okay? And then at this point, once you get all of the FAM and prep done, we're back to where I was here on my sheet. Which was, where was it? You've got all the FAM and prep, now you've got to get exercise training, okay? And so you've got to go out and fly. I believe it's 2 sorties in an exercise and be signed off by a skills evaluator that says you're ready to take a Form 91 flight evaluation. So a Form 5 flight evaluation is, can you fly an airplane? Okay, we have a pilot's license already, so the answer to that should be yes, okay? A Form 91 evaluation, if you can pass it, says you're not going to kill anybody trying to find somebody, okay? This, in my opinion, is a much more important one. Although, I will say, there is a very, when you're flying cadets, there is a very heavy responsibility on you to maintain your proficiency. You're not maintaining your proficiency like a short degree of proficiency, not just flying, okay, I got my proficiency, I'm flying once every 90 days. You better be flying 10, 15 hours a month if you want to fly cadets for Group 3, okay? Maybe that's a lot, maybe 10 hours, maybe, but a constant out here at the airport once a week, twice a week flying the airplane. That's my recommendation. I'm gonna, if I see that if you're not holding up to that, believe me, doesn't matter if you've got the rating and the endorsement, we're not gonna let you fly. But when you get to here, now you've got situations, you can see, you can still only fly at 7,500 MSL and below, okay, because you're not mountain qualified. But there's several different kinds of missions you can do that include a lot of turning, low level, okay? FEMA DR, what's FEMA DR? That's photography, okay? And a lot of turning and low level and being distracted by radio calls saying traffic alert. You know, you better know what you're doing if you're gonna fly, right? We're flying, oftentimes the prescription is 1,000 feet AGL, okay? So, anyhow, when you get to this level here, you're going to be a proficient pilot, and then you're also going to know how to fly according to the CAP book, the search and rescue. That's what we want to do there. The next step, okay, is mountain qualified mission pilot. This takes it to a whole other level, okay? You'll have to complete the Mountain Fury course, which that is going to be a course that's offered. Usually there's one offered in the north and one in the south once a year. COVID has really screwed this up, but hopefully there'll be one. And this is where you're going to go out and you're going to fly at 13, 14, 15, 16,000 feet density altitude, okay? And it's a very in-depth course on mountain flying and everything that comes with it, high density altitude and turning radiuses and emergency procedures and controlled impact in terrain and emergency procedures like emergency course reversals where you're banking the aircraft, an uncoordinated turn at 60-degree bank and with the stall horn going off and be able to maintain control of the aircraft, because if you don't do that, you're going to die anyway, right? So, but you can pass that, now you can fly basically all the search that we've ever done in Civil Air Patrol in Southern California, okay? So this is that's where our money has been made over the years. I can't recall too many high altitude searches that we've done in the last several years, to be very honest with you. Technology's been getting better. You have the cell phone forensics out of, I think it's Scott Air Force Base in Illinois. They could take those geo services or whatever is going on your phone and figure out where you are pretty quickly and pretty closely to where you ended up. So mountain qualified is pretty important because, number one, it makes you a lot safer pilot anyway, okay? It's kind of like people have said, well, why get an instrument rating if you're not gonna use it? I've said that for years, but you know what? I know that it makes you a hell of a lot better pilot too, as you're going through it, so there's that reason. Here you go. Here's the creme de la creme of Civil Air Patrol flying, okay? The CAP counter drug pilot. Now, you do not have to be a mountain qualified pilot necessarily to fly the counter drug, although there are going to be times at which you would have to, in certain areas that we do fly this mission where it would be above 7,500 feet density altitude, particularly in the summertime, obviously. But you've got to be a CAP mission pilot, you've got to be in the program for 2 years unless you're an active law enforcement officer. You submit a background check to Jim Hottoys. You complete a counter drug course on Axis and you become a Civil Air Patrol counter drug pilot. Now, what does this get you a chance to do? You get to fly a mission called, well, I'll just leave it, it's a border mission, we'll leave it at that, okay? And it's a 3-day mission, so it's a lot of flying. You don't want to see the inside of an airplane when you're done flying, I can tell you that for a while. You're good. Check that box. And usually it's pretty hot. But recently, in the past few years, we've done a lot more coordination with authorities that are on the ground there. And there's been several, and I think you might have seen it come out in the CAP email, where there's an aircrew just awarded a life-saving thing flying down there. In fact, Dave Cole and I were flying down there last summer, and we were called into a particular spot by Border Patrol. And anyway, in looking for somebody that was, you know, lost. So we'll leave it at that. So those are basically the different buckets. Okay. I don't know how to make it any simpler than that, and hopefully it is simple. And thanks, Chris. Really appreciate. Can I give you? He's gone through and like, yeah. I mean, that's like reading a lot of different material and boiling it down to 4 pages right there in the simplest form. But I think you just look at it and say, what bucket do I belong in right now, and you start working toward that right there. Okay, you know what you got to do. Okay, you know you've got to complete your prerequisites. You know what you've got to do to complete a Form 5. Those are on the first 2 pages. And then you say, okay, well, what kind of pilot am I? I'm just a new pilot. I'm 100 hours less. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go do... Okay, you call up these flight instructors. I'm going to be sending out this form tomorrow on the email with all of the phone numbers, Shane's phone number and Trent's phone number, broadcasting it to the group. And so it'd be up to you guys to call these guys. The airplane's going to be back here at Riverside Thursday night, so it's no holds barred at that point. So the airplane's there.
If the 2 people you have for group 3 are not available, you can also call check pilots from other groups.
Yeah, that app
For
has every check
availability.
pilot in California on it.
You can call anybody up north if you really wanted to.
Yeah. But even in group 3, I mean, Jim Hottoys lives in Palm Desert, okay? To ask him to drive to Riverside might be a stretch. Trent Ferris lives in Hemet, okay? So he's pretty close, and he's very willing to come down here and fly. And of course, Shane, I don't know where he lives, but he must live close to March Air Force Base.
Yeah, he's in Mobile. He's right underneath the.
Yeah. So the only problem that Shane has right now is he's just upgraded to Delta Captain. That's not a problem, only in a matter of time for CAP. Because I think he's been flying a lot of reserve.
If he's, if he's junior, he's gonna be on call.
Yeah.
That's
So,
5 on, 2 off.
yeah, so. Anyhow, anybody have any questions about this Civil Air Patrol pilot business and how you become a pilot and what kind of pilots that there are and the paperwork involved? If you get to a point where you can't figure something out on this sheet, call me. I can direct you. It's not that big a deal. But this should answer probably 90% of your questions.
Yeah, this shit's great, I like it.
So, and let's see, is there anything else? Okay, the SAREX, the new date, the 19th and 20th of March. Like I said, a gentleman by the name of Kevin Shannon from Squadron, I think, 45. Flight 11, okay.
Yep.
He's going to be sending out a call for base personnel, and of course, is he also gonna be doing the call for the signups for the SARCs as well?
He's gonna touch base with you and put out a call for everything you need.
Okay, so we'll be doing that. The first thing we're gonna do right now is we're gonna look for base personnel. If you're more interested in flying, just hold off and wait for that thing to come out for the flying.
He's gonna get it out by the weekend, he says.
Yeah, so one thing I would say about this is we're gonna keep this mission open for about 5 weeks after. That means if you can't make that weekend for whatever reason and you needed to fly, you're still gonna have the opportunity to for a number of weeks. And so we're gonna be getting into March, April, probably the end of April, I don't know, when is the time change? March?
No, it's April.
Is it April?
Yeah,
Okay.
let me check.
We have a little longer days, so we might be able to get a couple of weekday sorties in there before it gets too dark under this mission. The operations tempo is gonna start picking up here in California Wing. Very frustrating that every year it's the same thing. Obviously, the mission, all the mission numbers expire at the end of September every year. And there's a couple-week process usually where the new numbers are being assigned and the budgets are being figured out. And it always seems to correspond to the airplane being down. So I don't know how that works.
Or you can put on the board that daylight savings starts Sunday, 13th of March.
Okay, so that's perfect, okay? So we're gonna have extra daylight, we're gonna have some more time to fly during the week for those guys that are more flexible to get out here.
And see, then in June and July, you can fly all the way up to daylight hours, almost 8:30,
You know,
come July. Then it starts back down again.
so,
I hate doing that flights in the summer. Get home so late.
So it's only when you're going westbound looking in the sun.
Adolfo, how many hours do you have?
I have a total of 350, something like that.
Okay, and more than 50 hours of cross-country?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so you know what to do now, right?
Yes.
You fall in that bucket right there. Okay, great. I'm also gonna put you on the onboarding program. Okay? You're FA current right now.
Yes.
Okay. Send me an email after the meeting, would you, just so that I have it?
Yeah,
And I'll put you on the onboarding.
Sure.
When's your check ride?
I have it scheduled, but shooting for the end of the month.
Okay, once you pass your thing, you're on the onboarding program. You're gonna be the safest guy in the room right now, but these new pilots, they know all the rules. That's true.
Surrounded by a
Uh,
bunch of scab pilots.
Who's the,
Ken, have you been flying at all? Any
Nope.
fixed wing stuff? Okay.
Not a
Watching.
bit.
Okay, well,
See, I just saw my bounce landing the other
the
day.
airplane's
Yeah.
back, call an instructor.
I judge everyone's life.
I was sitting here
You've
doing.
got some money because you're a helicopter pilot. You can't
No,
fool
that's what
anybody.
that's all the bills I'm trying to pay off.
Yeah, you can't fool anybody
You
when
don't
you're a
have money
helicopter
anymore.
pilot. It's like, we go to you first for donations. So, I guess if that's it, we'll call it the meeting adjourned. And next week is aerospace education. And Ixtian Gutierrez will be here.
.9.
So,
he's been in the paper lately,
has he?
.9 was the
over the parachute.
No. All right. Yes?
Have you gotten a check, Herman, yet for your DPE?
No.